We finally got an OLED for your Mac or your Windows PC. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to the channel. So if you watch me before, you know one thing. I keep harping on when our Mac's going to come out, when our MacBook's going to have OLED screens, when is an iMac going to have an OLED screen? I know we have them on the iPads and stuff. Well, let me tell you, that day is today. Sort of. Okay, so the screen's not actually on the Mac, all right? It comes in the form of, it's sitting right here. This is actually the MageDok PI-X10 portable monitor. You can see it right here. And I'm going to show you close-ups as I'm talking the whole time, all right? But did I also mention this is actually a touchscreen as well? So for a Mac, it's only kind of a one-point touchscreen, so it's useful in some cases, but you're really buying this because of the OLED display, not the touchscreen. On a PC, that could be different. Windows PC, I'm sorry. On a Windows PC, it does have 10-point touch, and we'll get into that in a second. But overall, on the Macs, I'm going to be doing this as a Mac perspective since I'm a Mac channel, right? So that's kind of what I want to go over this as if you were using this on a Mac. And also one thing really quickly, I'm not going to give a full review. This is a product showcase. I got this a few weeks ago, right? And obviously I can't tell you about the long-term reliability of it and all the features and stuff like that. So do your own research before you buy anything. I'm introducing this product to you, a product introduction, and that's what I want to accomplish in this video. And one last thing is MageDok actually contacted me. They said, hey, we want you to try this new OLED screen. And I said, does it work on a Mac? And they said, yes. So what they did is they sent me the monitor, full disclosure. They're not paying me for this video, nor do they even need to see the video before it goes live. I can say whatever I want. But I really wanted to see what is all the hype on these OLED screens. I know I talked to a lot of people with obviously the iPad Pros and stuff like that, and they just swear by them. So are these OLED screens as good as people say? And that's what we're going to take a look at today. All right, so what do I have right here with the MageDok PI-X10? We got a lot of good features built into this little box here, so let me just talk about them for a second. First of all, again, like I said, it's OLED, it's a full touchscreen. Obviously, we'll get into the differences between Mac and Windows PC in a second, all right? It's basically going to be 15.6 inch, it's 4K, so it's not 1080p, it's full 4K, and it's 3840 by 2160 resolution, 16:9 orientation. I can show you some pictures as I'm talking here. It's 400 nits of brightness, which is actually bright enough for most cases. And the beauty of this thing and the beauty of OLEDs, this is a 100,000 to 1 contrast ratio, and we're going to show you how beautiful the blacks are in a second. But 100,000 to 1, which is really crazy. A lot of these other monitors have maybe 1,000 to 1, and that's a huge difference there. All right, it's only 60 hertz, so that might hurt some people, but it doesn't really bother me. It's actually 100% DCI P3 and 10-bit color, 100% there. So super color accurate, it's really super soothing on the eyes, and we'll talk about that in a second. It's also got a 178 degree of display angle. So when you look at this, this is an OLED screen. You can sit way off center of this thing, and it's just as bright as if you were sitting right in the center of it. It's not like other screens that you get from these cheap places. It's definitely way brighter on the side, so it doesn't have to be right in front of you. I noticed that right away, and that was kind of a key feature I noticed, quickly. All right, so it has 1 millisecond response time, which is actually really good. I mean, if you're a gamer, but again, it has 60 hertz. Then it actually supports the MPP protocol stylus, and then what is it, the USI protocols. So that basically means on a Mac, really, you're only getting one touch. I use like it's like a little thing with the little rubber thing on the front, and it works, or my finger, but my Mac pencil does not work on here right now. But on a Windows PC, you get 10 touch sensitivity. So on a Windows PC, you can do drawing on here, and I'll show you some pictures of that, people doing it. So it can work really well on a Windows PC that way. But since I'm a Mac channel, you get kind of basic one-touch stuff, and I'll get into what you can do with that in a second. It's useful in some cases for sure, but you're just not going to get as much use on it on a Mac than you would with a Windows PC for all it's worth. All right, it's 1.87 pounds. It says that it's TUV, I don't know how to say that, TUV, and blue light compliance. So that's, it's TUV with the two little dots over it. Don't know how to say that actually. It's got a Visa mount on the back of it. And then basically we'll cover the price of it at the end of the video as well, just to kind of show you what this actually costs, all right? But overall, it's just a great little thing, and it's a great monitor, on paper, right? But is it really that good when I actually start viewing it and I started using it? And that's what we're here to find out. All right, so here's my true reaction. So from the moment I plugged this thing in, I've never really had an OLED monitor before, right? From the moment I plugged it in, I was kind of like, it was a wow factor to me, right? The colors are very soothing. I don't know how to explain it unless you've actually looked at an OLED before, but the blacks are incredibly black, and we'll get into that in a second. The colors just pop off the screen, and you start looking at it, and you're like, something's a little bit different about this thing. It just looks different. It looks better, and I don't know why. It's just soothing on your eyes. And overall, you can't really put your finger on it until you've actually had one for a while. And that's what happened to me. So I started using it, and I can show you some pictures and some samples here. But overall, it was just a really soothing experience. Now, obviously, the resolution and stuff's really sharp. We'll talk about that in a second as well. But I'm just talking the overall pop of the colors. I mean, just to be completely honest, I have a 24-inch iMac over here with not a bad screen. It's a 4.5K, right? And I started using them both side to side. I don't know if it'll come across. I'll show you some pictures. But after using this screen over here versus the screen over here, I mean, I can tell you one thing, that I preferred the screen down here, right? The screen was actually better than my iMac, and that's a 24-inch 4.5K. It's one of my favorite monitors of all time. Even my 5K iMac. The colors on here and something about them just do something for me, where if I had to choose like a bigger screen, I would definitely choose this one. It's kind of a weird dynamic going on. I don't know if it's better sharpness-wise, but just the suit, you know, it's just really kind of a crisp look on it, and I just like it. It just gets to you after a while. All right, so now the blacks on this, it's 100,000 to 1, and I'm going to show you some pictures. Now, as I'm showing these pictures, I have a really dark background behind it, and I did it on purpose, right? Because I want to show you how deep the blacks are. Now, when you're filming something and you have a really lit room and stuff, you can't really tell. But on here, if there's any kind of blue light coming through, you're going to see that the blacks aren't that black, right? It'll have a blue tint to it. But take a look at these pictures here. I mean, the blacks on this thing are as black as night. You cannot, you know, it looks like it's part of the background as far as night or the dark background. You can't tell any kind of blue color in there. It's just really, really solid blacks. And that's what an OLED should be. So that was my first impression with it, is like, why do people pick up OLEDs? I mean, I always hear people saying, oh, the blacks are so black, I love them. Well, it really is true. I mean, you get that sense that everything, you know, there's no like, you know, fuzziness or anything like that. It's just when there's colors, and when there's black, and there's no in between. And here are the examples to prove it. It's just a really good monitor overall that way. Contrast ratio was not lying, so they're not fibbing on the fact that this is an OLED. It definitely is. And like I said, the monitor is a touchscreen, so it actually is glossy, but it's got like kind of a film over it. It's hard to explain. It comes in a carrying case, I'll show you in a second. But long story short, you almost think you have to peel it off because it's got like a little bit of an anti-glare. I guess it's a little bit of an anti-glare film on it or something. So you have to kind of get used to that. At first, when I saw it, I was like, what is this? It's not going to look that good. And again, it takes maybe a little away from it if it was just pure gloss. But at the same time, it is anti-reflective. So you can either love it or hate it. But at the end of the day, it's just got like a little bit different look on the front of it. And it's just a little something that you have to see in like real life to actually know what I'm talking about. All right, so the main thing here is like if you're buying this as for a Mac user, I'm talking about a Mac users now. You're really buying this for the OLED screen. You're not going to be buying it for the touchscreen compatibility, right? You just got to be honest with that. But with that said, I'll show you some examples. For example, you can maneuver the basically the settings on it. You can use that. You can go in and use your finger. It definitely is touch. It's, you know, the touch responsiveness with one finger works perfectly. So I can go ahead and adjust the settings on here, no problem whatsoever. You'll see that right there. But I can go into maps and move a map around just like I'm doing here. You can also do other things, like you can start and stop YouTube videos and stuff like that. So you can go ahead and, you know, obviously Mac OS was not built for this. I mean, it wasn't really built for this. So there's some really small spots you got to try to hit and stuff like that. But overall, if you have big buttons like YouTube videos and stuff like that, or you want to open up an application, it works totally fine. And it's just kind of a bonus. But again, you wouldn't buy that as a Mac person for the touchscreen. If you're a Windows PC person with the 10-point touch and having it's, again, the different protocols built in I mentioned earlier, this could be a better option for you for drawing and stuff like that. And I can see it be a really good option because it is that OLED screen. But for a Mac user, just you know, I think it's a total bonus because the screen is probably worth it alone, but it's just something to kind of touch on, that it's not something you'd probably buy it on a Mac just to be a touchscreen if you're going to be using it with Mac OS. All right, so basically I'll show you also, when you go into the settings, this thing comes with a whole bunch of different settings. And like I said, it goes up to 3840 by 2160, but that's actually too small on the monitor. If you put it in that resolution and watch videos and stuff, it's really phenomenal. But I like to use it, let me just see here, at 2048 by 1152, a really weird resolution. But at that resolution, I feel like the text and everything is big enough for me to read it. It's actually really sharp at that resolution as well. I mean, there's a little film on it, like I said, for the anti-reflectiveness. But overall, it does look very, very sharp to me as far as text and stuff. I had no problems or no complaints with that at that resolution. But if you go to those higher resolutions, obviously watching videos is one thing, but when you start dealing with text and small stuff, it's going to get really small on you on a 16-inch screen. So just keep that in mind. But either way, like I said, I just kind of didn't notice any of that stuff. As I started watching content and different videos and stuff like that on this, it's just really, again, it's that OLED display with the deep blacks and the colors that pop that makes it just this warm feeling where you just want to like look at this screen versus look at that screen if I'm watching a movie. So it is a lot smaller, I understand that, but at the same time, it's just more vibrant and it's just, everything just pops. And I'm not going to mention it too many more times, but it's just something you have to see in real life. So for something like this, and we'll get into the cost and stuff in a little bit, but you really want to maybe get it and test it out and see if you like it first, and then you can always return it. But overall, I mean, it's something you have to see kind of in person to kind of realize what would be the benefit for something that does cost this much, because it's definitely not going to be the cheapest monitor out there. And you got to kind of weigh, do you really need this or not? And you have to really see it to kind of know if it's worth it to you. All right, so it comes with the box over here. You can see the box, and I'll show you some close-ups. It's got like this little flip part on the front, and if you open it up, it comes with a carrying case as well. The carrying case, I would say, is not maybe the, it's a cheap carrying case. Let's just be honest. It's not just, again, it's a bonus. They threw it in there. But then inside of here, it has a whole bunch of different cables it comes with. And let me just see if I can find it here. So it comes with the USB-C to USB-C cable, which is right here, and that's the one that you connect from the monitor into your Mac and stuff like that, or whatever computer you have. It also comes with a standard HDMI cable, and then a USB-A to USB-C cable. So for all it's worth, I believe that's basically going to be for the charger. So this actually does have a power charger in it as well. But the power charger, I don't need it. So when I connect obviously to my iMac, it doesn't need it. And even when I connect to my MacBook, I have a M2 MacBook over here, it doesn't need the power adapter, but there's various devices where you would need the power adapter if it can't kind of power this by itself. So just keep in mind that there is a 30-watt power adapter that comes with it. And then a couple other things it has in the box. Like I said, it has a VESA mount in the back, and you can basically, it has some screws it comes with to help with that and stuff. But overall, that's all you really get in the box, and some directions as well. All right, so on the actual device itself, it has an aluminum frame, and on the side of it over here, it comes with a, let me just see here, a mini DP connection, mini display port. Then it's got a USB-C for, this is kind of the power, where you plug in the power if you actually need it or can power stuff. It's got a little like lightning bolt next to it, but it's not Thunderbolt, it's for power. Then you have a full-size HDMI port as well. And then you have your USB-C port over here, which is actually the port that you would use most of the time for plugging into your MacBooks and stuff. And then you have an audio jack. On the other side over here, you basically have a whole bunch of different buttons that's going to make, bring up the menu system. And like I said, once you bring up the menu system, you can use your finger on this, even on a Mac, to go ahead and change the settings and stuff. So it makes it really easy. And this thing is made out of aluminum frame. The back of it, the only weird thing is the back of it's made out of a plastic. I can't put my finger on exactly what kind of plastic it is. So when I saw it at first, I was like, I didn't know what to expect, as far as the quality of the screen, because it's just, there's no branding on it, nothing. It doesn't say MageDok anywhere that I can find. And it has like a stand it's metal, but it's not like really polished aluminum or anything like that. It just kind of sits there. You can see the kickstand back there. So overall, I wasn't sure what to expect on the screen, but the build quality seems good enough. And like I said, it's definitely something, that you don't want it to be too heavy anyway, so it's not that heavy when you're traveling and stuff. So I think overall it's a positive. But again, the back would, having maybe a metal back would be a little bit nicer. It's also got some speakers back here. These are the kind of speakers I always say you only use in a pinch. You don't use them otherwise. They're there, it's a bonus, but really you want to use your Mac speakers or some other type of speakers. And just, when you have to power this sometimes, this thing actually will work. It says right here, it says it works with phones, laptops, PCs, Xbox, PS5, PS4, PS3, Switches, Steam Decks, everything in between. So depending on what you actually need to connect this to, you might need to actually power it. So just keep that in mind. But on the Mac so far, I didn't have to do it. All right, so let's get down to the price of this, all right? So this is maybe the only negative for a lot of people because it is, it's not going to be cheap, right? Over here on Amazon, it's selling for $569 right now, $569. But like I said, we'll get into if I think it's worth it at the very end of the video here coming up. But overall, like I said, it is a true OLED, and it is pretty impressive. It does have the touchscreen capability, which adds a little bit of the cost to it. Granted, on the Mac, if you're a Windows PC user, that might give you a lot more value there, right? Because you can get a stylus and you can draw on it and stuff like that. But overall, I think it's a fair price because there's not a lot of competition in this market right now for this. If there was, maybe look for a sale and stuff like that. But overall, I'd feel a little more comfortable maybe if it was $450, somewhere in there. But overall, there's not a lot of competition, so you can't really compare the price right now. And OLEDs are expensive. But with all that said, I just wanted to show you what the price was. And I can't, really comment if it's worth it because it's really hard to kind of, gauge that in. All right, so do I think it would be worth the cost? And let me just tell you, so if you're somebody that, the visual quality of your screen is really, really important to you, really important, I think it is. Because like I said, I started using this device, a couple weeks ago, and, when I look back and forth between my Mac's monitor, and this is no slouch over here, 4.5K, I prefer this one. The colors of the animals that I'm looking at, like when I watch videos like this, or in movies with the deep blacks, or even like, I mean, obviously the text, this is the thing that's kind of hard for me, because there's some things on here that maybe perform better. I mean, if I'm doing straight work, this is a bigger screen, obviously, in the text and stuff, I might use this. But for like any type of content, or, you know, just watching movies, or it's just even browsing the web and stuff like that, I think I prefer this one over here. So it's one of those kind of mixes. And again, I can't tell you unless you actually see it yourself. It's not going to come across on the video. So I can't tell you if this is worth it. I don't know the quality of it yet. I haven't had it long enough. I don't know if this will break in 2 months or something. I have no idea. You do your own research. But what I can tell you is they're promising an OLED screen with 100,000 to 1 contrast ratio. I think we have it. I mean, I can't, obviously, I'm not an expert. I can't judge that. But it really does work really well. Colors pop. Everything looks good on the Mac. Touchscreen works with the Mac as well. Speakers are okay and stuff like that. But overall, I think, I can't complain. Text is fairly clear in here. So as a second monitor, if you kind of want the top line second monitor, this is maybe one you might want to consider. Maybe look for a sale, something like that. MageDok again. Check them out. Check out their company. See, ask them questions on Amazon and stuff if you have specific questions about the touchscreen. Find out a little bit about it before you actually dive into that expensive cost. But overall, I do think it's worth it. And I'm going to wrap this video up. It's going kind of long here. So without further ado, I do a lot of these different monitors. And this was, there's been a few that wowed me. And this is definitely one of them. And, again, you got to justify the price. It's going to be up to you and if you really need this or not. But for people that have the money and stuff like that, I think, you might want to check this out. And I love it. So that's all I can tell you. At the end of the day, you guys know my channel. Check it out. Subscribe if you can. And we'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.